Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Leeds and Grenville Affordable Housing Summit that has been organized in partnership with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and the Municipality of North Grenville. I'm Caroline Ragudo. I'm the Affordable Housing Coordinator at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and I'd like to introduce Amy Martin, the Director of Planning and Development for the Municipality of North Grenville.
I would just like to ask if there's anybody from the Indigenous community in the room today that would like to come and make some opening remarks. So I'll start our day off by reading our land acknowledgement. The Municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe. We honor the historic relationship of the Haudenosaunee and Huron-Wendat peoples to this land. We recognize all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with all Indigenous peoples, and we look forward to continuing this conversation and fostering the path towards reconciliation. So just a few housekeeping matters to kick off our morning. We kindly ask that you put your cell phones to silent to avoid interrupting our speakers throughout the day. Bathrooms are located out in the lobby area. Our emergency exits are well marked in the event that we do have an emergency and have to evacuate. Lunch will be buffet styled and be provided out in the foyer, and there is tea and light refreshments available this morning. Today's summit began as a fateful Teams meeting when Caroline was making her rounds to introduce herself to the local municipalities as the new affordable housing coordinators for the counties. This was a new position that was created as a recommendation of the county's affordable housing strategy. A passionate conversation about housing and affordable housing ensued, with us both identifying a desire to organize an affordable housing summit to bring everyone together. At the time, I do not think we pictured the magnitude of the event and that we would be speaking to a sold-out crowd today. So we want to thank you all for being here with us and participating in our inaugural Affordable Housing Summit. At this time, I would like to invite the Warden of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, Nancy Peckford, to the stage to provide opening remarks and to be our MC for the first portion of the morning.
Well, thank you so much, Amy and Caroline. It's wonderful to have so many different organizations and municipalities and developers and builders in the room. I first want to recognize that as many of us dropped our school-age kids off this morning, they were proudly wearing orange shirts for Orange Shirt Day, which is in fact tomorrow. So the signature color orange here is really in recognition of Orange Shirt Day. And I want to say, as a mom of 3 school-age kids, is I parented my kids when they were much younger. I parent them now, of course, but when they were younger, I imagined what it would be like for someone to show up to my home and take my 4-year-old away, or my 3-year-old away, or my 6-year-old away. And I think we can all agree how heartbreaking and how profoundly unjust and how damaging those 7 generations of residential schools were. And I think it really is incumbent upon us as communities and all levels of government to do our best to now really do right. And I feel strongly that days like Orange Shirt Day allow us to remember, and I'm very grateful that it is a day that we can take to learn and to build relationships. And I was listening to someone on CBC radio this morning, and a young woman, Indigenous leader, and she said, as much as we have to mark the tragedy of residential schools, she said, there's so much joy and there's so much laughter and there's so much reverence in so many of our cultures. And she said, that's what I really want us to remember as we move forward. So Orange Shirt Day is obviously a very powerful day. And I wear orange today in part because I'm going to be in a hockey arena tomorrow for most of the day with my 11-year-old son. But That being said, thank you so much for being here. When I was elected in 2018, very quickly, it became obvious to me in conversations I was having with members of the community that I was talking to a lot of seniors who said, I was born here, I raised my kids here, and I don't think I can stay here. I'm 60 years old, maybe I'm widowed, maybe my house is too big, and I'm looking to go to Ottawa, I'm looking to go to Toronto, because there was a dearth of multi-residential units available, rental units. Smaller homes are obviously something that, in fact, certainly in more rural parts of Eastern Ontario, aren't necessarily as common as we would like. And I thought, how wild is it that we live in these communities where we can't always serve the needs of those who have given so much and have raised their families and have been extraordinary community leaders and contributors. So with that, in 2018, within weeks of being elected and with the support of my council colleagues, all of whom are in the room, we convened an affordable housing task force, and it was something that was a real learning for me. I really opened my eyes to how complex this issue is and how much there is to do and how immense the possibilities are. And that led to an affordable housing task force at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville with the full support of my mayor colleagues at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. And with that, we as a counties decided to establish an affordable housing coordinator, because we knew that if you don't sustain a focus on this issue, it can really get away from you and you miss opportunities. And that's why Carolyn was hired. And we're so grateful that we have the capacity now through the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, but also with the participation of so many of you today to really have real conversations, honest conversations about how hard this is, but how tremendous the possibilities can be when we're all working together. And I think that's what's really extraordinary about today. I wanted to name all the developers and builders in the room, all the not-for-profits, and all the municipalities. And when I was given the list of 180 participants, I realized that I could not do that. But I would, in my capacity as mayor and warden, I would like to recognize the municipalities in the room, because I think it is emblematic of the fact that as elected officials, we care a lot and we want to move the bar. There is no question about that. But without all of us being in the room here today, together, having those conversations and really, I think, assessing where the possibilities are, conversations can be siloed. So before introducing some of our amazing guests today, I did want to recognize the number of municipalities you have here and counties. So in addition to United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and the municipality of North Grenville, we have Front of Young here. We have Merrickville-Wolford here. We have Kawartha Lakes. We have Gananoque. We have Mississippi Mills, Elizabethtown-Kittley, Prescott, Arnprior, Augusta, Russell Township, Brockville, Athens, Rideau Lakes, Lanark County, Peterborough, Frontenac, Township of Bastard and South Burgess, Edwardsburg Cardinal, Leeds and 1,000 Islands, and Hastings County. Have I missed anyone? Augusta? I think I said Augusta. So welcome. Thank you all for being here. We also have a vast array of not-for-profits, and we know we can't do this work without the not-for-profit community. And in North Grenville, and certainly at the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, we've had the opportunity to partner and to really leverage the incredible work of volunteers. And you know, the thing about not-for-profits, they come to the table. Most of these people are volunteers, and they knock it out of the park every single time. So I want to thank all of you who are in the room, either representing a not-for-profit or also I want to recognize Infrastructure Ontario is here, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the health units are here, and many, many other groups. And finally, I want to recognize developers, because I'm going to tell you right now, nothing gets done without conversations with the private sector. And we lean heavily on not-for-profit sector to move the dial on this, but we know without engaged and productive and focused dialogue with private sector actors that are willing to work with us, we will not move as far ahead as we want. So I know some of them are here. I want to say thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being willing partners, collaborators. Conversations aren't easy, we know that. And sometimes you got to meet in the middle. You're not going to get all of your way all of the time. I say that on my side and on your side, but the conversation is always worthwhile. So thank you for taking the time to spend it here with us. So with that, I will move it along. Obviously, it's critical that we engage those at the most senior levels that are making this happen. And we're so honored to have our newly named provincial Minister of Housing, as well as our own MPP, Steve Clark. But before I go there, we also were able, and we're very thankful that the Honourable Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities at the federal level, the newly named Sean Fraser, was able to send some virtual remarks, and I think we're going to cue those right now.
I'm Sean Fraser, Canada's Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, and I want to say thank you for the invitation to join you at the Housing Summit you're hosting in Kemptville. One of the things that I find particularly exciting about the event that you're hosting is the fact that you're indicative of small communities across this country who've woken up to the fact that if they embrace growth in housing, they can experience the benefits of growth in their local economy. You see, I come from a small town in Nova Scotia, and 8 years ago, the conversations we were having about closing schools and losing hospital services because so many people were leaving. Now the challenges that we have are whether we can build enough homes to accommodate all the people who want to move to our community. Now, this might be a good problem to have, but it still creates real challenges. And we want to work with you to identify challenges that are appropriate for your community. We're going to continue to put measures forward that are going to reduce the cost for builders to actually build the homes our communities need, like getting rid of the GST on the construction of apartment buildings that are actually going to be rented out, as small as 4 units. We also know that we need to change the way that communities build homes. This is where the Housing Accelerator Fund comes in, and it has a specific carve-out for small communities. This is going to create an opportunity for direct federal support to the communities who demonstrate the greatest level of ambition. We know that the solutions to local challenges lay with local communities. They don't come from here on Parliament Hill. We want to work with community leaders to identify the solutions that are going to be important and effective for North Grenville and make sure that we have the opportunity to help support you in your effort to implement the changes that are most needed. We're going to continue to do what we can to get more homes built in this country, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that no community is left behind, from big cities to small towns to rural communities. Looking forward to meeting you in person someday. Congratulations on the leadership you're demonstrating with the hosting of this summit today.
So thank you to Minister Fraser's office for making that happen. But more importantly, we have our own Member of Parliament here today, and this is someone who's extremely passionate about this riding and certainly knows the counties very, very well, and that is Michael Barrett, who is a Member of Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. And I understand that MP Barrett also has a private member's bill on reducing some of the barriers to getting affordable housing built faster, and I want to express our deep appreciation to MP Barrett for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Warden. Good morning, Minister, MPP Clark. Great to see all of the mayors and councillors in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here. I spoke to Sean Fraser, Minister Fraser, and we agreed that if he only spoke for 2 minutes, I could take the other 43 minutes of the 45-minute slot. So buckle up. And I'm very encouraged by the intention that has been brought forward this morning, and not just from members of the United Counties of Leeds Grenville, but the partner municipalities and also our neighbors. So we have people coming from across electoral district boundaries to be here today to share best practices and to find out how we can solve for the greatest challenge that we hear about most often. Certainly the challenge that I hear about most often from folks. And I think that it's I'm very excited that we have a federal minister who is, he's demonstrated an interest to learn our town's name, and he's going to have those conversations. I think it speaks volumes that we have our provincial minister responsible for this file sitting in the room today. He's going to hear directly from you, and you're going to hear about what the provincial government's doing. And of course, all three levels of government locally with myself, our great MPP Steve Clark, the warden and the mayors who want to work together. This is only going to be done together with collaboration, and it's going to require some aggressive moves, things that push us outside of our comfort zone. I don't come to you today with the solution for all of your problems, and I wish that I could be here for the entire day. I have to go to Ottawa. I'm going to leave a diligent note taker to find out where the pain points are, and I want to encourage everyone to reach out to me and to my office to talk about what the challenges and opportunities that you're experiencing in your municipalities. We are presented with a really great opportunity, and I'm encouraged by some of the things the federal government has done, and as Warden Peckford pointed out, some of those solutions that the federal government is deploying they sound an awful lot. They sound very familiar, like some solutions that I've been part of putting forward, and those are echoes of things that you might have heard from MPP Clark and Minister Calandra's team. So, there's no, I think they say there's no patent on a good idea, we're not going to put a trademark next to it. I'm just excited that it might get some homes built and it might get some money put into our community. With respect to the Housing Accelerator Fund or any funds that the federal government's putting forward, I just can't encourage you strongly enough to make sure that you take advantage of those, encourage your cooperation with federal agencies like CMHC, and any time that you have an application that you're putting forward to them, please flag it to myself or to your federal member of parliament if you're not from this electoral district, so that we're aware and that we can have conversations. And so while I look forward when I'm in Ottawa later today to putting on spirited conversations with Minister Fraser and his colleagues, I can also assure you that we have collaborative conversations in the best interests of our country and our community, and I look forward to doing that on your behalf, and I can't wait to hear what comes out of the summit today. Thank you very much to everyone who's involved in putting it on. These are incredibly important conversations, and that leadership is a great first step. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Thank you.
Michael is also a busy parent, busy dad to 5 children, in addition to being in the house as often as he is. So thank you, Michael, for taking the time. It really means a lot. And I know North Grenville has been an applicant of that Housing Accelerator Fund, and MP Barrett has been wonderful at making sure that certainly the federal minister's office is aware of what we seek to do, and I think what this region seeks to do. And once again, I want to really highlight how unique and powerful I feel that this day will be, and I really hope the conversation doesn't end here. I don't think that's the intention at all. It was to plant seeds. It was to build some relationships. It was to leverage opportunity and make sure that together we forge a path towards sustainable and inclusive housing, for all. I think we need to be bold. We need to, as MP Barrett says, go outside of our comfort zone. And I'm really looking forward to what the day has to offer. So next, I'm going to invite our own MPP, Steve Clark, to come up. And before I do, I just want to say, during the pandemic, when we were really, I think, coming to terms with the effects of the pandemic, obviously, on housing prices, and really recognizing the vulnerabilities within all of our communities at all life stages, we were able to work in partnership with both the federal and provincial government on 2 important initiatives, one of which was Pixie Place, which is a supportive housing building that was completely renovated and is now available to some of our most vulnerable residents throughout Leeds and Grenville. Grenville. And at the same time, we were able to here in Kemptville, in North Grenville, the municipality of North Grenville made a decision to lease out to the United Counties our old courthouse, which used to be our town hall, in order to convert it into rent-geared to income units. And really, without the efforts of MPP Clark and obviously the collaboration of the federal and provincial governments, that wouldn't be possible. And both those housing initiatives were so badly needed throughout the counties. So I want to thank MPP Clark. You know, from the minute I established the housing task force here in North Grenville, and when we brought it to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, our local MPP has always been a really passionate champion, and we've been able to do some wonderful things together. And I'm going to invite him up so he can introduce our special guest today, Minister Calandra.
Well, thanks very much, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. It's wow, this is fantastic. I've gone to my fair share of municipal housing summits, but I tell you, for our first one in this riding, really impressed with the number of people, the caliber of people, and the diversity of people. The fact that we've got not just municipal representatives, but representatives that really deal with the whole spectrum of housing. This is very special. So I want to first thank Amy and Caroline for co-chairing this event today. And I know full well the amount of work that goes into hosting a meeting like this, especially one this well attended. So I want to thank both North Grenville and the United Counties for their efforts. Top-notch jobs. Let's give them a round of applause. It's fantastic. And so if I can impart, before I introduce my colleague, Minister Calandra, if I can just impart a suggestion. In the middle of a housing supply crisis, the likes that our province hasn't seen, it's really important to get shovels in the ground. So when you leave today, go back to your office or your home and think about what you can do locally, not just in the county, but look at how can I make a difference in someone's life by ensuring that I'm pro-housing and housing friendly. So just take that back home with you. So today we're very honored to have the Honourable Paul Calandra, Ontario's Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, here today. And the project that Mayor Peckford talked about, the courthouse apartments, Minister Calandra's colleague, Associate Minister of Housing, Rob Flack, will be here on October 11th to work with the county on the ribbon cutting for that wonderful affordable housing project. Minister Calandra is the second minister I've been able to snag in the riding in the last 3 weeks. We had Minister Lumsden, our tourism minister, up in a helicopter over the beautiful Thousand Islands just a few weeks ago. And I just want to thank my colleague for being here. He's to coin a phrase from the Premier, he's a true champion, and really appreciate his work. The Honourable Paul Calandra was elected the member of Provincial Parliament for Markham-Stouffville in 2018. He was re-elected in 2022. Prior to that, Minister Calandra served in the federal parliament with our former MP, the late Gord Brown. He was elected in 2008, re-elected in 2011, and held a number of very high-profile portfolios. He was parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage, as well the parliamentary secretary to the President of the Queen's Privy Council, and also Prime Minister Harper. In our government, since 2019, he's been our government House Leader, an integral role in Parliament to be able to deal with the government's agenda. Since 2021, he was also named Minister of Legislative Affairs. And just prior to being named Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, he served as Minister of Long-Term Care. And in that portfolio, really supported 5 major long-term care projects in our riding. Obviously here at Southbridge in Kemptville, we're so proud. Minister Calandra, in his previous role, was one of the first people to tour the site before residents moved in, and has been really a big supporter of our riding with long-term care projects in Prescott, Elizabethtown, Kittley, Athens, Mapleview Lodge, and also Carveth in Gananoque. So we're very pleased to have Minister Calandra here today to talk about our government's housing agenda and our housing supply action plan. But just before I call him up, one of the key jobs that the minister has in Parliament as House Leader is to work with the whip to make sure he wins votes, right? It's very important that a majority government wins votes. But when I looked at his personal life in Stouffville, I don't know that he's going to win very many votes. He's married to Melanie. He's got 2 daughters, Natalie and Olivia. So I think he loses a lot of 3-to-1 votes in Stouffville. I'm going to talk to Melanie and the girls about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're so very proud to have Ontario's Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Paul Calandra. Please give him a Leeds Grenville welcome.
Steve knows my wife, so he knows full well that I win no votes at my house ever. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you so much for doing this. It really is an honor to be here. I do have prepared remarks, but I didn't want to bring them up because I thought we'd just have a conversation, and I thought it would be kind of silly for me to take credit for work that Steve Clark did over the years. And I'm going to take just a moment on that. We're all here, obviously, because we are in a housing crisis across the province of Ontario. We can talk about how we got here. We can talk about what we're going to do to get ourselves out of this. But I want to very, very, very sincerely say that, honestly, since we started in 2018, it has been all about untangling where we're at. It doesn't matter how we got here, we're here. And many of the things, all of the things that we have done to untangle the issues surrounding housing supply have been brought forward and championed always by Steve Clark. Every single bill that we brought forward, every progress, all the progress that we've made, the work done in the pandemic, and all of you, our partners, you know how difficult those couple of years were, and they continue to be challenging in many respects. And that was all work that was done and championed by Steve Clark, sometimes overly passionately, because we just didn't understand. I will say, as having now been in the job for just a short period of time, I am very much aware of the fact that most of you in the room have forgotten more than I know about municipal affairs and housing, quite honestly. My briefing on whether it's the building code, development charges, the Planning Act, I've gone through them 4 times now. I'm going to read them again this weekend, just to put myself in a position where I think I can have intelligent conversations with all of you in the room. I think it is Steve Clark who deserves a huge round of applause for the work that he has done. Again, thank you for doing this. And again, I'll go all over the place, and you can stop me and interrupt me whenever you like. But I was asked a question yesterday in the House by one of the members, and I don't remember the context of it. I sometimes get accused of not answering questions and giving stories, and that's fine. But somebody, the reality was, I always think about why. Like why was it? Where am I? What am I doing? And why am I here? And I think about my parents when they came to this country. Right, my parents came from Italy, late 50s, early 1960s. For one reason. I mean, and those of you who come from immigrant families, it's just they were very hard circumstances where they were coming from. They wanted to create a better life for themselves, so they came to Canada to do it. I remember my mother telling me that she was depressed in this country for 10 years because she came in summer and didn't realize that winter lasted 10 years. So she was... and then she finally got over it, and then there was something. I was 7 years old in 1977. There was this massive blizzard, and she never forgot about the blizzard. But when they came to Toronto, obviously, and they got off at the train in Toronto. My dad came first, and he lived with his brothers, in a home on the Danforth. My dad got off the train and went to work as a barber on the Danforth, but they all lived in a home. The family then came one at a time. They would do what a lot of families did. When one would leave, the other would take the bed, and he would go to work and finish the shifts. And then eventually, they moved on. First, it was my uncle. They saved money together. He bought his first home not far from the home that they all lived in. And then my parents moved to a home not far from there in Scarborough, a very tiny 1,100 square foot bungalow, which we in Toronto, I'm not sure if you call them the same thing here, the wartime bungalows. I'm not sure if it's the same. Okay. So wartime bungalow, they bought their first home and so on, and it progressed, and then they bought another home. Somebody moved into that home. But the reason that they came here, my parents always said, was because Ontario and Canada afforded them the opportunity to actually own a home. Full stop. That is why they choose to come here. It was affordable, it was big, there was lots of space. They could have their own piece of what they could never have in their home. And that's why my dad came when he was young, my mom came when she was 18. That's why they came here. And they did very well. They built a very, very good life for themselves, and they ensured that their kids also then had a very good life as well. But for too many people right now, that seems to be a dream that they will never have. I also talk about one of my chiefs of staff. We were talking about this. Good, hardworking young guy. Did everything that you expect somebody to do. Got out of university, saved money his whole life. This kid was far smarter than me. He still is. Bought a bachelor, a little small bachelor pad, and has been trying now for 3 years to buy a home. Good family income, 21 offers later, still is not even in the game. Not even in the game of being able to buy a home. Brought his son home and feels so bad because his son and his wife are in a bachelor apartment. And that, it's just not the way it's supposed to be. And I will say also, we were very, and forgive me, I think Canadians were very selfish for a long period of time, right? We were selfish because we had a lot of space. We didn't have a lot of people. We could do things in a way that we wanted to do things. We could all assume that we were going to have a home with a big backyard, a white picket fence, and that we could continue to grow communities in that fashion. But things have started to change. Our population is getting much bigger. We need more people to come to this country because we are growing in a very, very aggressive and good fashion. And so we have to think about things differently. It is so important that we start to think about things differently. But that doesn't mean that we take away people's dreams of having their own little piece of the same dream that we had when we grew up. We can do both, I think. I think there is an opportunity for us to have people to continue to aspire to all of the things and advantages that we had while still making sure that nobody is ever left behind. And that's what I think forums like this are all about. It's not only about finding solutions, it is also about thinking outside of the box and developing partnerships that we might not have otherwise thought. We were talking on the drive up today, the Heroes to Homes initiative that Steve pioneered for us and explained. And these are things that we weren't thinking about, that we weren't talking about, right? But it is what we are thinking about now. So there is a lot of work to do, and it's not just about building homes. It's a whole of government approach, right? It has to be. We need the people to build the homes. And that is why the Minister of Labour has been doing so much work to help restore and get people back into the trades. When I speak to a lot of the people, the builders out there, a lot of them tell me, I'm not sure if it's the same here, but at least in the greater Toronto area, that finding the skilled labor to help them build homes has become a very, very big challenge. I suspect, given the price increases that I've been seeing for long-term care, when I was the long-term care minister, that some of those challenges are the exact same out in this community. So the government has been doubling down to ensure that we get people into the skilled trades. We know that many of the communities here, that when we ask you to build housing, this is something that Steve Clark has talked about all of the time. When we have asked you to build housing, you need to have the ability or the infrastructure in the ground and the help to build infrastructure that allows you to meet targets that we might set for you. In some of the communities, you're stuck in a position where you might want to build, but you don't have the water and other resources, infrastructure in the ground to help you do that. So we're working with infrastructure. Where's infrastructure? You said infrastructure on Ontario. Where's the infrastructure? First, because I'm just going to lobby them right now. If you're from Infrastructure Ontario, put your hand up. Oh, there you are. Okay. Right at the back. You see, anyway. So we're going to work with infrastructure. We're going to continue to work with Infrastructure Ontario to ensure that we can bring resources out to different communities. But it's not just about single-family detached homes. It's not just about the affordable units. We talked a lot about long-term care and the amount of investments that are being made in long-term care. Where's the Athens Athens? Put your hand up, Athens, because where? I don't.
Right over there.
Where?
Mayor Scott.
Oh, there he is, sorry. One of my favorite, I have to tell you, they're all my favorite, I shouldn't say that. Kemptville was wonderful. Sorry. This is why I have a few jobs, because I don't last in them very long. So can I just have some water? But, one of the things that, and I don't take any credit for this at all, because one of the things that, and I'm not just doing it because he's here, one of the things that Minister Steve Clark said to us is, like, you got to get your, he said it differently. Let's just say, he says, you got to get your something out of the Toronto and the GTA and come to smaller communities and see what they have to offer, what they can do. And when we went to Athens, you'll remember this, when we went to Athens, one of the things, like, we're driving and we're there's like one restaurant on the main drag of Athens. I'll admit, I said, I don't know where the hell we're going here. There's no way there can be a long-term care home in the middle of nowhere. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then we got there, and to see what they are doing there, and what they sacrificed in order to build a long-term care home, the plans that they have for the center that they already had, and the work that they are doing to ensure the one thing that Steve talked about, and I think that most of you feel is that, and I use this all the time, and it's thanks to Athens. They just said, like, right plainly and honestly and right to your face, people don't want to go where you want them, where you tell them to go. If they want to be in a long-term care home, they want to be in the community, near their family and friends, and in communities that they help build. They don't want you moving them all over the place. And that has to be the same with housing. Those are words I've not forgotten, and that came from Steve, who used more colorful adjectives than that, and the group at Athens. And that is why we've made in long-term care so many different investments. But people have to remember that long-term care is also a home. It's a home for somebody, right? And it's a part of that transition. And when we build affordable housing, it's a home for a family. It is a home that gives somebody else a leg up. But we also have to give other people other options and other opportunities to live and grow and thrive in their communities. So Minister Clark, Steve Clark, took away so many of the barriers that were holding us back. It was absolutely incredible. And it's not municipal fault, it's not provincial fault, it's not federal fault. We went through a cycle where we just thought that putting obstacles in the way of development and building and partnerships was a better way to go. When I was at AMO, I met with a planner, and sorry, I will say that I was also told if I speak longer, there's less questions. When I was at AMO, I met with a planner, and on the side, and the planner said to me, for us, we were in a phase where prior to their time as planners, it was yes. But for them, over the last 20 years, it was no. How can we stop things from happening? How can we delay things? That is how things changed over the years. And now they're moving towards a cycle where it's maybe how can we make it work? And that is, it might seem like a small thing, but it is a big change with the way people are looking at developing communities. And it's not just focused in our larger cities. We have said very, very clearly that we're going to build 1.5 million homes, not in Toronto, not just in the GTA, but every community across the province is going to have a responsibility to help us build 1.5 million homes, because not everybody wants to live in Toronto. It's just the way it is, right? I live just outside of Toronto, and I live in Stouffville, so I like to call myself rural as well. But so like I'm still 49 kilometers from downtown Toronto, and if I'm not on the road at 6 o'clock every morning, I don't get to work before 9 o'clock. And people don't want that. Like, they don't want that, right? So they want to live in all kinds of different communities. And when you look at the investments that you're actually attracting to this community as well, we have to have the housing to support that. When you talk about the long-term care homes, the addition of 4 hours of care means a lot more nurses, means a lot more people that are coming into a community. They have to have housing to support them to live in those communities. So it is about doing things very, very differently. We will be and continue to be a partner. Much of the groundwork that was done by Steve is now at the point where we can then start to unleash the potential that is Ontario in a very, very big way to help us grow. The changes that were brought in have seen us have some of the highest housing starts, I think, in the last, 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. Think about that. The highest housing starts in 30 years have happened over the last a couple of years. Purpose-built rentals all but went away for over 30 years, frankly. The highest number of purpose-built rentals has been over the last couple of years, and we got to double down and continue to do even more of that. I know we've had some disagreements on development charges in some parts of the community, but when we have done, when we've worked closely with you to ensure that development charges are focused on what they were meant to focus on, we are seeing that people are coming back and people are starting to build. Yesterday, we introduced a bill, which was really the Steve Clark bill. It had nothing to do with me. I just introduced it, where the definition of affordable housing contains is an income-based as well. And I know that in speaking with Colin Best at AMO, it was very, very, very well received. But for the first time, it will mean that different communities across the province have a real, and individuals from all across the province have a real opportunity to participate in having their share of that dream. And there's more work that we have to do. But it is. I'll just conclude by saying, well, I'm not going to conclude, because let me just say a couple other things. I wanted to speak about the federal government, if I can. I will say that like Minister Fraser, I've had one meeting with him, and I know that you had 5 years of meetings with a minister that just could not seem to get any, and I don't, no, I can be honest, they just could not seem to move the needle on anything. Everything seemed to be stalled. One meeting with Minister Fraser, over coffee at Tim Hortons in Windsor, and we had been talking about the GST. I know, Michael, you have been talking about removing the GST and HST on purpose-built rentals. I know everybody had been talking about this for years. One meeting with Minister Fraser at a Tim Hortons in Windsor, and a final, like, please, will you just do something on this? And 10 minutes later, he came back from a phone call and said, all right, it's done. But that was after how many years of beating your head? This is why he has no hair. Like, I mean, this was. So, the good thing is he's done all the work, so I'll be able to keep mine. But Michael said this well. I mean, they've been incredibly successful holding their feet to the fire on things, and now we're starting to see the needle move. Which is very, very, very encouraging. But you have to double down on us. You have to double down on the federal government. You cannot let up on either one of us, because we are going to put pressure back on you to get shovels in the ground and to build as well. Because let me tell you, if you don't, then the economy starts to slow down, because if we can't build homes for people to follow the jobs, the economy will slow down, and that is not good for any of us. And the last thing I'll say is this, and then we'll take, if there are questions, and I know when I get to the car, then I'm going to forget, and I'm going to regret not reading the speech of all the good work you did, but we cannot be in a position. We were in the House yesterday, and there was a question that said from a member, maybe it's time for us to rethink immigration because of a housing crisis. And we can't allow ourselves to get into that mode either. You know, we have to talk about immigration and housing, because if we don't, I wouldn't be here. This country would not be where it's at, and we can't let people use immigrants as an excuse to slow things down. It is just the opposite. We would not survive as a country. We would not be as successful as a country. Our communities would not be successful as they are if it wasn't for people who want to come here and help us build our communities and make them even better. And we cannot allow people to tell us that we can't talk about that, because that is very important. It's our responsibility, if we're going to bring people here to help us build an economy, to help us build a country, that we give them all of the same resources and opportunity to grow that my family and generations of people have had. So I will just conclude by saying this. Really thank you very much for doing this. I thought there was a hockey game or something going on I didn't, like, this is very, very impressive. So congratulations. This is quite awesome. But if I can challenge you again, really think outside of the box, because we will hold your feet to the fire on building. And if you can't, then you really better have a very good reason why you can't. And if it's an obstacle that we can remove, we will. If it's something that we need to address, we'll work with you. Sorry, I forgot to mention the BFF. Like that, man. See, this is where I conclude. I swear, this is the last thing I'm going to say. So the BFF funding, the Building Faster Fund, right? You've all heard about the Building Faster Fund. It is a fund that helps you meet your housing targets, and it's an incentive to help meet housing targets. Smaller communities, because of Steve, will be able to participate in the Building Faster Fund. That was not going to be the case, but he insisted that it did, and we're going to also include long-term care homes as part of that, so that smaller communities across Ontario can participate in doing it. So there will be no excuse if we fail. There will be no excuse if you fail, no excuse if we fail, and I know Michael and his team will ensure that the federal government, to the best of your ability. But I will say I'm very optimistic with Minister Fraser. I think he will be a very good partner with us. But with that, again, thank you all very much. Thanks for listening to my ramblings, and if there are questions, I'll take them. Do you want me to take questions? Yeah? Okay. Oh, no questions, so I guess that's it. You done?
Is this thing on? It is. Okay. Sorry. I'm Karina Smith-Gatke, the mayor of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands, and thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us. It is important that our provincial ministers and members are here, as well as our federal representatives. In the Building Faster Fund is speaking to the smaller communities, speaking on behalf of our municipality. I know in a meeting with the former Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, one of the challenges we face when you're talking about multi-unit residential, it's a real challenge for small communities to build that type of housing, mainly because many of our smaller villages do not have the infrastructure.
Yep.
We have one part of our municipality that does have water and sewer, but we know we're in the process of doing a Hydro G right now in order to support building more homes. This is a very expensive endeavor, and we're going to need money to expand our water and sewer system. So through this Building Faster Fund, Minister, is this the type of funding that will come to smaller municipalities to support the building of more homes? Is that where it's coming from, or are we just going to have to borrow and try to spread it across all of our taxpayers, which we know that municipal services are supposed to be borne by the users and not at large, so maybe you can expand on that.
Yeah, the Building Faster Fund is more on the conclusion, so you're successful, where you're successful, that the fund is anticipated helping incentivize you to build. But you hit the nail on the head in terms of water, wastewater, and the infrastructure in the ground, right? So we, and I mean, you've talked about this a million times, and that's why I'm happy that Infrastructure Ontario is here. But it's not just Infrastructure Ontario. Like, if I can put both hats on just to say that we need the federal government also to come on board. This isn't just a unique problem to Ontario, right? There are communities across this country that can't be expected on their own to put the infrastructure that is required to help us meet our target of 1.5 million in Ontario, and I think it's over 3.5 to 4 million across the country. The federal government absolutely positively needs to come on board. They have funds that have not been accessed right now that I know that you talked about. I mean, gosh, that housing accelerator, I don't even want to talk about that, but like just sits there, funds that sit there. The infrastructure bank, where nothing has happened for literally 4 years. I know Minister Surma has been, was speaking to the former minister with respect to a national strategy to help us put specifically that, to get that done. But we're also, if we can't get that done through a national program, then the province is looking at how we can unilaterally assist across. I can tell you this, we won't let that stand in the way of meeting the target of 1.5 million homes. We want every community, and whether it is through, you know, I don't know what Front of Young is. I know it's a small community. I shouldn't say that as Municipal Affairs Minister, but if you can participate and you can give us 3, that's great, right? If you can participate and give us 100,000, that's wonderful. But every municipality, and I've been actually encouraged by how many have said, we want to participate. You've got to just give us some of the tools to do it, and we're going to give you the tools to succeed. Yep.
Minister, going back to your comment about Fraser and the GST, is the province planning to remove the PST for purpose-built rental?
Yeah. We had that in our budget last year, actually. So yeah, 100%. It was not to take credit. I mean, it was Minister Clark. It was his initiative that put it into our budget. It was last year's budget, or maybe it was 2 years ago or last year's budget. It was in there.
So for projects now, they can expect not to pay the GST.
Yeah.
PST. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to build on that. Mitch Bloom, and I help North Grenville right here with affordable housing and things like that.
Yep.
So a little while back, Ontario put a great policy in place. Municipalities should allow accessory dwelling units as effectively a right all across the province. It's wonderful. So individual citizens can put one in their laneway, their backyard, wherever they have a place. Every person can make a difference. So the federal government announced the change to the GST rules. Ontario's matching that on the HST front, but it doesn't apply to individuals. It has to be at least 4 units in a multi-unit building, which doesn't really work well, some people pointed out, in rural environments. So I know it's not your policy, but I would encourage you to reach out to your federal colleague and ask him, is this something worth thinking about? Because to me, it's just logical. Everybody can make a difference. Ontario's already done the right thing on the regulatory front. Maybe we can make it a little bit more affordable by removing some of that GST for individuals and HST for individuals as well. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Absolutely. I'll leave that one to you, Michael, but we'll continue the pressure on that. Last one, yeah, sure.
Good morning, Minister. Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for engaging with us in this way. We know that Queen's Park is paying attention when people like yourselves come to this to be part of the discussion. I'm the mayor of Gananoque, and in Gananoque, since 2016, we've approved enough residential units to expand our housing stock by 22%. Only 170 of them have been built, and we just recently approved another 60-unit development. You talk about meeting housing build targets, but there's a key tool that isn't available to municipalities, and that's to require the build to happen.
Yep.
Frozen development is a challenge for us. We have people, or we've had situations where an applicant gets a plan approved, and we have a development plan process, which is a little more complicated than most, but once it's done, it's done. So it's in hand and transferable. And then immediately put it on the market to sell it as an approved plan, build to suit, and it just sits there. So I would be curious to know your thoughts on the idea of providing to municipalities the ability to require a fixed timeline for real construction after a plan is approved, because absent that, we don't have the tools to meet the targets we've agreed to if we agree to those targets.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
It's out
agree
of our
more.
control.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and I say this with all respect to the developers in the community who are very, very important partners. We are developing a use it or lose it tool right now. We have no intention of asking you to do something and then somebody sitting on an allocation that doesn't allow other development to happen. That is done. If you do all of the work, if you do put all of the resources into approving and getting a plan done, we expect that shovels will go in the ground and not that they sit there and hold up other people down the line from access. I have one in my riding that was approved 12 years ago and has still not put a shovel in the ground, and because of that allocation, other stuff can't be approved. So we are doing a use it or lose it. That'll be coming, we're in consultations with how that will work right now. But yes, we heard you loud and clear. And as I said, as much as we're going to put pressure on you to meet your targets, we're also going to unlock opportunities so that you can ensure that the people that you're working with also to help you meet those targets, because we just can't afford the days of you sit there and waiting for your best opportunity. If we're in a crisis, we're in a crisis, and we're going to deal with it, and we're going to give you the tools to do so.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay. Sure.
Sorry, I know you said that was your last one, but I couldn't resist coming up to ask. My name is Heather Breesbaugh, and I'm here representing Leeds and Grenville Interval House. And I just had a question regarding the BFF fund. Long-term care homes are eligible, as well as small communities. Will women's shelters also be taken into consideration for accessing that if they have the means to be able to build transitional homes?
Yeah, I don't see why not, to be honest with you. We're still in the process of really doing a bit more work on the BFF fund. It's transitioned a little bit from what we initially had thought. Of course, Steve was insistent that it include smaller communities. As long-term care minister, it seemed that, and you were very supportive of that, that we should include long-term care. Minister Parsa has also reached out with respect to other congregate care settings, women's shelters. So I think anywhere where somebody is where it's a home for somebody, they should have the opportunity to access this fund. And in smaller communities, this might be the only avenue by which they can participate, right? And we don't want to have smaller communities who are doing things maybe differently than the larger communities. We don't want them to feel left out of something because they're not doing it in a traditional fashion. So I absolutely do not see why not. If it's a home for somebody, they will be participating in the BFF fund. We will set targets, of course, realistic targets. So, we know it's different for everybody. Realistic targets, but the goal is to allow as many people as possible to participate so that shovels get in the ground and that we provide as much homes for people as possible. Somebody in the shelter, they want the same thing, right? They might not necessarily be transitioning to a home with a backyard. Maybe they want an apartment somewhere. In my writing, I think you talked about it. Do you know how many seniors I have that come to me and say, I can't downsize. I want to downsize, but I have literally nowhere to go. The first affordable housing units that we have, it was the ones that you approved in Stouffville, the first affordable housing units ever in my community. 200-year-old community, the first ever affordable housing units, but underserviced in shelters. It is so long-winded way to say. I get pretty passionate about that, honestly, because I think we've been so underserviced for so many years, and we're bringing you with us as opposed to singling you out, if I can say that. So yes, it is our anticipation that you would participate, and hopefully that's what comes out of this. Who should be a part of this? How can we make sure that we put more resources to making this happen for across different sectors? So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
So I think I'll invite our co-host back up to the stage. I want to thank Minister Calandra for being so willing to engage and share his candid thoughts, and also I think his real passion and commitment. The questions that you asked today I think are really crucial for us to capture where there may be opportunity that has yet to be fully explored or articulated or documented. So please do not hesitate to ask those questions, because I think we'll be able to get even a little bit further than we hoped. So thank you, Minister Calandra. Thank you to MPP Clark and MP Barrett, all of whom wanted to be here. And we'll pass the agenda back over to our co-hosts and look forward to the day. I did want to also recognize Ottawa and Nepean Housing Corps. I know they're in the room. We're really grateful that as largely urban providers of housing, you decided to come out and work with us and learn from us. And we have a lot to learn from you. So we look forward to all of the conversation once again, and enjoy the day.
So we have a scheduled break for the next 15 minutes, and we'll resume back at 10:20. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome everybody back after the break and take a moment to introduce our next speaker. We have Alison Tutak. Thank you. She's the Director of Community and Social Services for the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. And today she's going to speak about the landscape of community housing. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. So I am the first person to bring to you a PowerPoint presentation. So we'll move through. I've been asked to speak about the landscape of community housing, and I'm very excited for today and for all the people that are in attendance today. It's an amazing opportunity for all of us to come together and ponder how we come together, have a conversation, and figure out how we build and increase our supply of more affordable housing in Leeds and Grenville. I also want to take just this opportunity to extend a huge thank you to both Amy Martin and Caroline Ragudo for all the work that they've put in to making today happen. So the United Counties and what is our role? The United Counties is the designated consolidated service system manager for housing. We currently own and administer directly from the counties 670 plus units of housing across Leeds and Grenville. In addition, we also have rent supplement units that we enter into contracts with private landlords, and we also have a number of nonprofit housing providers across Leeds and Grenville that also offer both market housing and rent geared to income housing. Our main goal at the county and our housing department is to assist people in our community to become homed. We are very keenly interested in and excited at how we can move the needle, which was referenced earlier. How do we move that needle to increase the housing in our community? Defining. So when we talk about affordable housing, what is affordable housing? And certainly the 5 minutes that I've been given will not lead us to wordsmith a definition. But if we think about how we think about the various housing options in our community, we're certainly talking about housing that is affordable, and housing, whether we're talking about 80% of AD market rent, rent geared to income, it's housing that can be afforded by the people that live in our community. So just keeping it very general for our purposes today. So what is out there in the United Counties and as it relates to our community housing portfolio? So I wanted to just provide some examples, and I'm just going to highlight some of these four main areas. The United Counties, so I spoke about our stock. The 670 plus units that we have, they are all rent geared to income units, meaning that is the deepest level of subsidy available in our community for community housing. So I've just provided a few examples on the page of some of the projects. I wanted to actually provide pictures of all 670, but I was told I didn't have enough time. So forgive me, because I only have a small sample of the examples. What I will say is that of the units that the counties directly owns, in addition to our nonprofit providers, we're very proud of our stock, and we're very fortunate to have had the support of the United Counties and the provincial government to ensure that our stock, both our nonprofit stock and our community housing stock, is maintained to a very high standard. So that we're very, very proud of that. And we have a number of our staff here today, so if you want to know more about community housing, just ask one of them during the break. So a couple of examples here is our 80 Water Street building in Brockville, which is an 82-unit building. And the other example is one of our townhomes located on Fort Town Drive in Prescott. Just a note that of the apartment buildings that we own, almost all of those units that we have in apartments are one-bedroom units. The townhomes and single-family homes that we own are all 2 to 4 bedroom units. The other examples I provided in beautiful Kemptville, where we are today, is 200 Bridge Street, which is one of our apartment buildings, and we have a 17-unit apartment building in Mallory Town. So these are just a couple of examples of our stock of community housing. Our nonprofit providers. We have a number of nonprofit providers across the United Counties, and many of our nonprofit providers, we've provided a few examples. We have the GAN Housing Corporation in Gananoque as an example, and also Township of Burgess and South Bastard nonprofit in Portland. So these are some examples of our nonprofits. What's important to note is that our nonprofits offer rent gear to income assistance and over 250 units of rent gear to income assistance in Leeds and Grenville, but in addition, they also offer market housing. Many of our nonprofits have a 50-50 split between market and rent gear to income, which helps in their long-term sustainability, which is really important for them. But what's also interesting to note is that when they say they have market units, quite often those market units, the market rent is well below market rent. So they really are offering affordable housing and rent gear to income housing. This is an example. The Harry Seeley project is a great example of a purpose-built affordable housing project. Approximately 13 years ago, this was funded under a provincial program called Investment in Affordable Housing, and this created 12 accessible units in the village of Elgin. There's also a number of community partners in which we've been able to fund various affordable housing projects over many years. Here's a great example, and you'll be hearing more from Sandra about this a little bit later. And this is the project here in North Grenville, Community Living. And this was also an investment in affordable housing project. Community involvement. There was, once again, through investment in affordable housing, we were able to fund a number of homes to help the clientele of this organization in terms of being able to reside in homes that were suitable for them, and also that they had the necessary supports as well. There's also other community agencies in the landscape of subsidized housing. And just to note a couple of examples, the wonderful organizations such as Developmental Services of Leeds and Grenville or Lanark Leeds and Grenville Addictions and Mental Health. Both of these agencies enter into agreements and rent supplement agreements to ensure subsidized housing for their clientele, and also being able to provide support to the people that reside in those units as well. So they're also very important to our community landscape of what is available in our community. The market. Now this is becoming rare, but I would be amiss not to note that there are examples in our community in which people have been in their units for a very long time. Their rents have remained affordable due to their long-term tenancy, and landlords that have been able to keep rental rates at affordable levels. With time, we're seeing that the amount of this in our community is declining, and so that certainly is our ongoing challenge. The social services and community housing departments, We see and understand the overwhelming demand and desperate need for safe and affordable housing options to be available in our community. Our programs serve the folks living in the deepest of poverty in our community, and the housing options and housing stock that are needed are not generally developed through natural market forces. The turnout for today says so much. It says that there is interest in truly moving that needle, and I thank everyone for being part of today. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that, Allison. So what we'll do is we'll hold questions at the end of each section after the other presenters have spoken. I would like to introduce Jessica Baird, who is a policy analyst for the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. Jessica has over 20 years of experience in various roles at the counties, the majority as a data analyst coordinator. Her commitment to affordable housing and homelessness began with her data management work by supporting the creation of the initial 10-year homelessness plan. Since joining the Housing Department in 2022, she has compiled community-level data to assist with housing-focused decision-making. And I would like to welcome Jessica to present on a review of social housing supply and socio-demographic characteristics for the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville.
Thank you. My presentation today will provide a brief overlook of some data that was available to assist with planning. It can assist with furthering the conversations that you're already having within your communities. Perfect. Understanding the need for affordable housing depends upon a lot of variables. I've included a snippet of the data from the 84-page report that I presented to Council earlier this year on the following slides. Understanding the needs within the community starts with having knowledge about where the population is. This slide provides a quick visual of the population distribution in Leeds and Grenville. You can see that Brockville is at the top with the highest population that we have, and Westport's at the bottom. This is not new data. This is a Statistics Canada data that's been released since 2021. The previous slide shows where the population is, and this slide is showing the household growth over the last 10 years. So these are the municipalities that are growing and in the rate that they're growing at. You can see that we have some that are growing faster than the province, and our Leeds and Grenville average is the lighter shade in the middle there, just above Leeds and the Thousand Islands. It's also important to understand the age of the population within your communities when you're looking at housing. We know that our population is generally older than the Ontario median age, and North Grenville is by far our youngest municipality in Leeds and Grenville. Westport is our oldest, we know that as well. Some information about the private households within Leeds and Grenville. Approximately 21% of our population of households in Leeds and Grenville are renters. And of those, 35.2% are paying more than 30% of their income. Brockville, Prescott, and Gananoque are where the most renters live. 42% in Brockville, 42% in Prescott, and 36% in Gananoque. Some information about the social housing registry that we receive at the counties. We maintain the wait list, and the data showing here, which was included in the report, is from December 31st, 2022, so as of December 31st, 2022. The 589 represents the total number on the wait list. They are unique to units and not individual applicants. The 367, that represents individual households or individuals. Of those, 53% are adults, so those would be singles or couples without children. 28% are families, so including single parents or couples with children, and 17% are seniors, 65 and older. When we talk about affordability, we look at the income that is available to the families. So I have shown the after-tax median household income. Sometimes we use before tax. I prefer to use after because that's the money they actually have in their pocket at the end of the month. You can see that there's a wide gap between the top of our municipalities in Leeds and Grenville and at the bottom. The average for Leeds and Grenville is $72,000. Also in my role, I conducted an average market rent study. This information was collected between the months of November 2022 and January 2023 269 listings were compiled over that period, and you can see that the rates for one bedroom is considerably high at 1,473. And I just want to note this study was also done in 2021. We've increased approximately 25% since then. I'm excited to share some new data with you, the analysis from the HART. This information was provided for 2016 data, and we awaited the 2021 release that was just available to us in July. The HART data is an assessment tool that is funded by the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, to research data-based solutions to Canada's housing crisis and is reliant on the data captured by Statistics Canada. The HART team is made up of housing researchers, experts, and advocates. Again, like I said, it's available for 2016 and 2021. The link is here as well, and I believe it's in the presentations that you received. They look at core housing need, and while HART provides a comprehensive data analysis of the housing need, there's some limitations to what it can do. The HART suggests that the data represent the minimum number, and that their core housing needs numbers that are presented are often higher than they actually are. Core housing considers those that are living in unsuitable, inadequate, unaffordable, and unattainable housing. The following slides of core housing and HART projections for 2023. This presentation is available if you haven't seen it online already. The numbers are very small at the bottom. I apologize for that. The current core housing need is estimated at 6.86% in Leeds and Grenville. Those in the very low income category in the core housing need is 66%, and in low income is 30%. So you can see that the income is reliant on whether you're in core housing need or not. So as you progress into your income, into moderate and high income, the housing need is less. In the analysis of the HART data, HART explored the relationship between income and household size and found that 88% of one-person households, so singles, in very low income and 66% in low income are experiencing core housing need. That's represented, it was teal on mine, it looks like it's blue on your slide there. The burgundy bar represents two-person households, and the gold bar is three-person households. So closer to the, which would be the right side, is the low income. As you move across the slide to the higher income, you see less people in core housing need, and none at all. The HART researchers created their methodology for projection, which assumes that the past patterns of growth will remain the same for the next 10 years. So what we've known previous is what we can expect in the future, which is helpful to know when you're looking at population and household data. The burgundy line is showing the projected household totals, projecting more one, two, and three-person households by 2031. Again, the teal bluish is the current totals, and the following slides will show projections by household size, so the size of units or the size of households that we have. So this slide is showing you that one-person households are the only households size projected to grow in all municipalities. So this is on the positive, and one-person households are growing at 14% for Leeds and Grenville, and they range between 6% growth to 26% growth. Again, these will be available to you after the presentation. The following slide here is for two-person households. They're still expecting and projecting a growth for all of Leeds and Grenville of 10.2%. But you can see here that we have a municipality that is projecting a decrease in the need for two-bedroom households. Three-bedroom households are still expected to see a growth, but significantly smaller than the one and two-person households on the previous slides, at only 2.1% in Leeds and Grenville. This slide here is the four-person household slide, and projected to have a decrease of negative 17% for all Leeds and Grenville. I did consult with the HART because Westport had a really big spike, which is 29 households, so that could be due to some Statistics Canada rounding. So I think the actual 17% decrease is probably higher than this, and that's some of the cautions that HART warned about using their data. And the five-person households, we can expect to see a decrease of 9.5% for all of Leeds and Grenville. This data is also available for the cross-tabulation of income categories by household and priority populations by household. Today, due to the time, I've only shown you the database on household size. Moving forward with planning and decision-making, some of the data that you can consider is household wait lists that I've shown in this, and I have more additional data on, to understand where the known current need is, as well as the size of unit needed. Population data, to assist with projections to what the future need is and might look like. Income data, to answer the question, what does affordable really look like? Because it is different between each community. And the HEART data, which I showed a snippet of, it's a custom data analysis that unfortunately isn't available to the open general public when you go to look on the Stats Canada and you pull the data off their website. So this is a special custom run, which is why it's so exciting for us to have access to it. The questions will wait till after, I've been told, so I'll just end my presentation there.
Thank you, Jessica, for that. Now I would like to introduce Tracy Birch. She is the homelessness team leader at the United Counties in Leeds and Grenville. Her work has been focused on helping to establish our local by name list and improve the homelessness service delivery in the United Counties. Previously, Tracy has worked with nonprofit organizations such as the United Way, the Social Research and Planning Council, and the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, helping to create positive social change and raise awareness for those in need within our community. Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit about homelessness in our community today. Okay, so as mentioned, my job has been working on establishing a local by name list. And what a by name list is, a list of real-time known people experiencing homelessness in our community that have given their consent to being added to the list. And we use this information, it's real time as mentioned, to help us know who's becoming homeless, how many people are currently homeless, how many people are leaving, are becoming housed, how many people might be moving into different communities and whatnot, to help us understand homelessness a lot more in our community. We're able to maintain the by name list through a partnership of local service providers who all work together to help do the intake and put people onto the list. And then we also meet together and we receive matches in order to help people find housing. So that is what we focus on. There we go. All right, so as of July 31st, we have 110 people that have been identified as actively homeless currently in Leeds and Grenville. 75% of them being chronically homeless, meaning they've been homeless for 6 months or longer. These numbers continue to increase each month. Of those that are actively homeless, 66% were male, and 68% are less than 45 years of age. Not identified within those numbers are 35 dependents that are under the age of 18. That often when people are experiencing homelessness, when they have dependents, their children might go and live with a family member until housing can be resolved, so there's often family separation when that happens. Looking at where people are experiencing homelessness, we can see that the majority can be found in Brockville. However, there are people experiencing homelessness all across Leeds and Grenville. Additionally, we have about 16% of people that haven't identified the community that they're residing in. So that could be anywhere that is across Leeds and Grenville. The average length of time that people on the by name list have been experiencing homelessness is 17 months. However, of note is that we only track up to the last 3 years of that they've been experiencing homelessness. So this is a very conservative estimation. Currently, we have 15 people on the by name list that have been homeless for longer than 3 years. We find that 25% of people are experiencing absolute homelessness, meaning that they're staying in a public place, a vehicle, or an encampment. 29% are being emergency sheltered in a women's shelter or in the Cooperative Caring Center or one of the the United Counties 21-day shelter or through motel hotel vouchers. And roughly half of the people experiencing homelessness are part of the hidden homeless population that might be sleeping on a friend's couch in a hospital or in a motel. So giving a snapshot of local homelessness, we can see that our hardworking frontline staff have been successful in housing on average about 10 people a month of people that are experiencing homelessness. So over the past 2 years, we've been able to help over 200 people experiencing homelessness find housing, which is wonderful. The challenge we are facing is that while we're housing 10 people a month, we're also averaging about 13 people being added to the by name list, newly identified, and of the people that we've helped to house, approximately 1 in 3 are returning to homelessness. So this is equating to a slow but steady increase in homelessness in our community. So what are some of the factors that are contributing to this reality? So as mentioned, the average cost of a 1-bedroom in Leeds or Grenville is roughly between $1,100 and $1,400, as just mentioned there. So currently, 74% of people on the by name list are receiving some form of social assistance, either Ontario Works or ODSP, and we have another 26% that identify as no income, or they haven't identified income. We can see here that for those on Ontario Works, the shelter allowance they receive for rent is $390 a month, while ODSP recipients receive a slightly higher shelter allowance of $556 a month for housing. And if someone's experiencing homelessness, the shelter benefit is withheld or suspended. So even a room rental at roughly $700 a month, which are very hard to find, is often out of reach for those on social assistance without additional support such as rent subsidies or that might be available. Additional factors also include discrimination, as many times those on social assistance are not even considered as tenants. Frontline staff reported it can take up to 8 months to help someone experiencing homelessness to find housing, and their applications are usually declined between 6 to 10 times before they're successful in finding housing. So we're not alone in this. This challenge is all across Ontario. Some of the ongoing challenges that we're finding locally to finding and maintaining housing include the lack of supportive housing options in Leeds and Grenville, as well as available services for those with mental health and addiction challenges. So what are we doing now? We're working to increase our capacity to be able to serve those experiencing homelessness by developing additional rent subsidy programs, such as the by name list housing allowance that's been able to assist many people. Developing supportive housing options in partnership with the Lanark, Leeds and Grenville Addiction and Mental Health, where we are the tenants of market rentals, and the participants enter in a service agreement with us in order to be housed, and then they're supported by addictions and mental health. And we're also developing supports to be able to assist landlords better. So partnership opportunities, how might landlords be able to help or developments be able to help? Offer more rooms that are available to rent, partner with the counties with available units that you might have to increase our supportive housing stock. As mentioned, the counties would be the tenants, so rent would be guaranteed, and there'd be case managers providing ongoing support to help them maintain housing. You could designate a small portion of your units to help those in need or to be used for affordable housing units. Individually, we can't solve homelessness alone, and we all have a part to play in this much bigger, complex situation. But by working together, I am certain that we can make a difference. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Tracy. Unfortunately, I have to announce today Charlie Mignol was supposed to present, but unfortunately he's feeling a little under the weather, so he wasn't able to come. We have posted all of our presentation materials online, so I would encourage you to check out his presentation on workforce housing needs. I was really looking forward to it today, just like all of the other ones. And if you do have any questions about his presentation, you can send them to us and we can certainly forward them on. So at this time, I'd like to open up an opportunity to ask questions to our panel on affordable housing needs, if anyone would like to come to the microphone. Thank you.
I guess it's on. Vicki Leakey, Deputy Mayor with the town of Gananoque. And the way some of our housing structures are, like an NPO. So as we know, we have an aging volunteer group. So a lot of the NPOs, the boards, they are sometimes restricted when it comes to how they can advance their project. And so I guess, like, what opportunities, and is the county, so if you have an NPO that is looking for an expansion, is the county ready to offer some of those directions on, and funding even, like the startup costs for getting planning, for getting development, engineering? Is there a program for startup costs to help those NPOs that have market, and even market, you're quite right, the market rates are low, so it's not like an NPO is building significant reserves to allow them to have funds to spearhead a future project. So my question, what can the county do in these circumstances when it's straight board directed, help those board members to get a project up to go?
I think would Allison like to answer that, or would you like me to take that question?
I can start and you can finish.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
You're absolutely right. Nonprofit providers within our community are certainly, there's opportunities, and we've certainly heard from many nonprofit operators that they want to look at opportunities for expansion. We have some great examples in our community where that has actually happened, and you'll be hearing more about that later from our Margarita Residence Corporation. Now, the county does not currently have a startup fund. However, what we do have is, for example, Caroline, and Caroline, as our affordable housing coordinator, does work with our nonprofits or anyone in our community to try to link them with CMHC or FCM or other programs that might be available to them for possible seed funding, initial grants, where are some opportunities, accelerator funds. The accelerator fund applications, as an example, that was recent, and Caroline did a ton of work in helping municipalities get the information that they needed to make those applications. So we are certainly there to help facilitate and help our nonprofits in that direction. At this current time, we don't have any direct from the county or municipal dollars supporting those startups.
I believe Allison answered that question phenomenally, but I also would just want to welcome anyone to contact me. I'm happy to talk about affordable housing anytime. Please reach out if you have a project you're interested in, or you're looking to make some of those connections, so definitely give me a call, and I'm happy to provide that assistance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Brant Burrow, Mayor of Elizabethtown, Kittley. So I was interested in the graphs that showed the trend of the one-person, two-person, up to five-person houses. And so those projections are based on historical performance, right? And that's really all that we can do. But in my brain, I'm wondering, how relevant is that, given that the trends we're looking at were based on traditional supply of homes and availability as well? And that's been tipped upside down on its head. That's why we're in the housing crisis. So is there any way that we can dive a little deeper into that data and determine if there's a bit of a chicken and egg situation in why we're seeing those types of projected results? Is that because there isn't the housing available, and so people are rearranging their lives, and so their needs are changing? Or if we had the type of inventory, would those types of graphs look a little bit different? So, two-part question. Has that been given any consideration, and is it possible to do?
Thank you. So the graphs that you're referring to came from Hearts. And I know when I was poking around on their website, they do offer community needs assessments. And there's a number of communities that they've already done that with. So that's an option that we can look into to see if there's a local community that they would take on as a project and do that type of study with. I think the purpose of those projections, it's based on the population data, not necessarily the housing size. And they use the analogy that if we're growing in households of one person or two persons, this is what traditionally they're going to need. So that's how those numbers and charts have been developed. But you're right, if we're rearranging our our lives because we don't have the housing stock and we're needing 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms for 2 families to live in, or multi-generational families to live in, then that would certainly make those graphs look differently. But the HART data is available, and as far as I understand that, we can reach out to them with certain community projects to look at, and that might be a question that we could ask for
I guess I'm
for
just
them.
concerned that we would go through a robust process and make really well-intentioned decisions, but if it's based on poor or inaccurate or skewed data, then it still doesn't serve the purpose, when we reach the finish line.
The projections in those charts, they did an analogy from 2016 to 2021, and they were off by 2%. When they did the population projections. So they did use that as their benchmark, and I do have the methodology. Actually, I think I brought it with me if anybody's interested in seeing that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if I could add to Jessica's question as well, the Social Housing Registry also collects information on our social housing wait list. So we do have information based on bedroom size. So that gives us a really good idea as to the types of households that are waiting now even for housing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name's Tom Bolonja. I'm from the P and Housing Corporation, and it's just been over 10 years since, probably just over 10 years since we all, well, municipalities or service managers were required to do 10-year housing and homelessness plans. I'm just curious, what's been the most significant change in this area since your first 10-year housing and homelessness plan? What trends you've seen? I think it's obvious affordability is gone crazy, but has there been surprises since then?
That's a great question.
I'll try.
I wasn't able to speak to that.
I'd say it's correct. We are coming to the end of our 10-year housing and homelessness plan. And I'd say probably one of the most significant things that we've seen, the affordability and the supply of housing, absolutely, that's why we're all here today. But I think most importantly, the big difference that we've seen in the last 10 years is the increase in homelessness in our community. This has become a really significant issue, and we're really looking at our next 10-year plan and looking at possibly separating the issues of homelessness and housing. One of the things we know is that homelessness is not just about housing at all. In fact, homelessness is about services, it's about serving people, it's about people who are living in poverty, people who are living in health poverty. It's a very complex issue, and to just think that housing is the solution is narrow, and so that is one of the areas I think that we need to look at in a more in-depth way as we prepare our next 10-year plan.
Excellent, thank you. We have about 2 minutes remaining for questions. So
mine will be, I think, maybe not that quick. Actually, I'm sorry about that. And I like the panel discussion approach. My name's Chris Ward. I'm a councillor from Edwardsburg Cardinal. And one of the things that I have experienced myself in past, and I know other potential landlords face as well, is the risk. And so, becoming a landlord, especially in a situation we're trying to help with affordable housing, the margins are a lot smaller. And the risk there, I think that when I talk to people and when I experience myself as well, is how can we be protected so we don't end up in a 6-month or a 2-year-long legal battle because we're not getting the funding we need as landlords or as landlords. And so, is there any protections out there now that if somebody were to sign up with Leeds and Grenville to try and set up something like that you can help to make sure that the landlords have a little bit of protection as well? And I know it's a difficult topic, but it is a concern. I think that's partially where we get into part of the shortage because of the fear of getting into the market again. So.
Absolutely. I think Tracy might be able to speak to a little bit about the funding programs that we have to landlords through the housing allowances under the by name list. Is that something that we're still running?
Yeah, so at least for people that are experiencing homelessness, we do have the rent subsidy, the by name list housing allowance, and we've set it up so that it goes directly to landlords so that at least they're guaranteed to be receiving the rent. We're also working hard to develop the supportive housing initiative with landlords, where we partner with the landlords and we become the tenant, like the third-party agreement, to offer a bit more protection to the landlords. So again, it's guaranteed rent. You don't have to worry about that piece. It's guaranteed. But then with the supportive housing piece, we'll have the case managers that can go every day and assist, right? Like that's a big piece for landlords too, right? Is having to navigate some of the challenging behaviors, right? But genuinely, some people just need support in order to maintain housing. So by being able to provide that as well, that will help to protect landlords as well. So we're really wanting to partner with landlords. So I don't know if that helps.
Yep. Thank you. And last question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Neil Kadrinko. I own Kadrinko's, the grocery store in Westport. And I just noticing on like the heart numbers, that really seems to be addressing like that's what the situation is for the people that live here in the community today and what we think what those people are going to need. The reality is in a community like Westport, I mean, I've put on hold a $2 million expansion of my business because there's just no labor force. And even if I could attract people to live in my community, working in service industry or retail, a $600,000 townhouse is not going to be affordable. So, there's no point in me expanding my business to serve the needs of all of the people that are moving into these townhouses and homes from Toronto, or gentrifying the housing stock that we currently have, if I don't have labor there to be able to run my business. So, I would really encourage us when we're thinking about those numbers is to also think about what are the needs of the businesses going to be, because when we were at the county's Business Retention and Expansion Project meeting in Johnstown in 2019, myself, Fiona at the Epinicon, Jim at the Lumberyard, all three of us, our number one concern for growing or our business or maintaining our business was where are our employees going to live. That was in 2019. COVID made that 3 times, 4 times worse, and there's really nowhere. So I would ask, do those numbers reflect, are there discussions going on between ECDEV and housing to not only address what are the needs today on the ground, but what are the needs going to be? If we're doing a long-term housing project in Athens, where are the people that are going to work at that place? Where are they going to live? Are they going to drive from other communities, or are we going to actually address those needs?
If I could speak to that, just unfortunately in Charlie's absence, he would have been the best person to answer that question, absolutely, because that's something that has definitely been identified across Leeds and Grenville, and really, I think, across Ontario at communities. And that's the importance of building affordable housing that our workers can afford to live in. There are some initiatives that Charlie's group, the St. Lawrence Economic Development Commission, is working on to start building workforce housing. So again, I would like to encourage you to review his presentation. He can provide a bit more information on that, but it's definitely something that is working on with economic development. Thank you. All right, well, I'd like to conclude this section for today, and I'd like to thank the presenters for taking time to put together their presentations. Thank you very much.
All right. So I'd like to introduce Graham Hussey. Graham Hussey is the Director of Housing Development for CCOC and President of CADCO. In these roles, Graham is responsible for the management of CADCO and leadership of CCOC affordable housing projects, and during the past 10 years has assisted in the development of more than 1,000 affordable homes. Graham is a Treasurer and Board Director for Housing Services Corporation and member of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund. Council and Investment Committee. In these roles, Graham has supported the creation of the HSE Housing Investment Corporation and the GMF Sustainable Affordable Housing Initiative. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you very much. Really happy to, I think I grabbed multiple presentations at the same moment there. Happy to be here with everybody. What I'd like to do is share a little bit about what I do and the organizations that I work with to help nonprofits, charities, and co-ops develop affordable housing. So CADCO, we're based in Ottawa. We have a team of about 12 to 15 staff that work full-time developing affordable housing. and projects in Ottawa, Eastern Ontario, sometimes in other parts of the country. We're related to an affordable housing landlord or organization called Centertown Citizens Ottawa Corporation. It's a private nonprofit in Ottawa that owns and operates over 50 buildings and 1,700 units. So CADCO is the development side of it, CCOC is the operational side of it. Every group who provides affordable housing has a different type of affordable housing, slightly different shade of color or nuance. So with CCOC, it's a mixed housing model. I like to explain it, and usually this cues the snow. As a snow globe, if you took everybody who lives in Ottawa, put it in a snow globe, shake it up, that's who lives at CCOC. There's a mixture of incomes, a mixture of household sizes, abilities, and so forth. There's no one particular demographic or income standard. So with CADCO, what we do is we create projects for CCOC, but we also do that for other organizations. As I was saying, we advise governments on how to build housing programs and to incentivize affordable housing in their area, and we also teach organizations how to do it for themselves. I wanted to share a little bit of an expose behind us, just to say that we're a pretty simple group. We don't own and operate any affordable housing, CADCO itself. We really basically are a fee-for-service business. People hire us, we hire staff, we build affordable housing. So the more groups that hire us, the more we can do. We're involved from the beginning of the moment that somebody says, I have an idea to create an affordable housing project and I don't know what to do with it. That's usually when we get involved, helping groups to understand what is the project, where might you get the money for it, and figuring out the next steps, particularly at the beginning during that feasibility phase. And then we stay involved all the way through the project until it's finished, it's built, people have moved in, stabilized, and then we move on to the next project to help the next group. This past year, we launched an initiative called the Toolbox Plus. I'd really encourage everybody in the audience to check out our website to find out more. Essentially, what we're trying to do is open source what we do so that others can learn from it, so that you can, develop your own affordable housing project or create your own version of CADCO. It's a national program where we coach and mentor nonprofits, charities, co-ops, market developers on scaling up their affordable housing development capacity. Just a bit about a few different projects to get you a bit of a flavor of that. This is a project that we just finished last month. People started to move in at the beginning of September. It's for our related organization, CCOC, in the Mechanicsville area of Ottawa, 50-unit apartment building on a former site that was owned by the municipality that provided shelters for families, and we rebuilt it into permanent housing and built in enough family-sized units to replace what was lost there before as a shelter. And it was designed and built to a passive house standard, so very energy efficient, has a solar array on the roof as well. We're working with another organization in Kingston called St. Elizabeth Health on developing a mixed income seniors affordable housing project in the Kingston area. We've kind of been looking at a few different sites right now, but we're in a very early stage with that. So to give you a sense that we work on different types of projects in different areas. We've been helping CareBridge with a project in Smith Falls that's under construction right now. CareBridge has a lot of their own capacity, but what they really wanted our help with was dealing with CMHC. That's a little bit of our unique specialty, is how do you navigate which program, and going from those nice conversations to you actually have an agreement and maximizing the amount of grants and financing that you get from CMHC. And then finally, I just want to put in a plug that on every one of your tables is this poster. As part of the toolbox, one of the aspects of the toolbox is we've designed a role-playing game. We call it Go, as in go or no go. And if you've, I'm not a D&D person, I shouldn't admit that, but if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, what you understand is it's a game that has a facilitator, and this is kind of similar. And so we're doing a workshop with Leeds and Grenville in Brockville at the end of October in a month, We're going to lead you through, if you're interested in attending, we'll lead you through a quick 1-hour workshop on the basics of affordable housing development, and then we're going to play the game with the audience. And basically the game is trying to put into action the considerations that you go through in a feasibility phase of an affordable housing project. So as a group playing certain roles like the Affordable Housing Organization, the local municipality, the CMHC, the planner, the architect, you work together on a team to create your project concept and move it all the way through to see if it pencils out, and then you pitch CMHC on your project at the end. Not real CMHC, pretend CMHC. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to invite Bruce Hines. Bruce Hines is the chair of the board of directors for the Margarita Residence Corporation. Bruce had a 27-year career in the social housing field, including 21 years with Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation and 2 years with the Ontario Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. He closed out his professional career as Director of Housing Policy and Programs at the Region of Peel. He has been on the board of Margarita Residence Corporation since 2007, the last 10 years as chair. In the development of Wall Street Village, Bruce was primarily responsible for its financing and the corporation's relationship with stakeholders. He is undertaking a similar role for the St. Vincent Apartments project. A member and the treasurer of First Baptist Church in Brockville, he is also a lay preacher. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you. Good morning. Last month was a sad month. Jimmy Buffett died. Everybody hear about that? I just want to make it clear that we're not named after Margaritaville from Jimmy Buffett, okay? I was a raving parrot head in my day, so I really miss him. But no, the corporation is named after a sister from a nunnery that used to be on the site where our first project was built. Our first building was rented from the the land was rented from the Archdiocese in Kingston, and it became known as the Margarita Residence Corporation. So, who are we? We're a charitable nonprofit. We were incorporated in 1977, and we're a provider of affordable seniors housing. Back in the day, CMHC had seniors housing, family housing, and singles housing. We were a seniors housing project. But we now have 3 buildings in Brockville, comprising 209 units. And we're working on the St. Vincent Apartments. If anybody sees where the old hospital is, you'll see a new project going up there. That's ours, 88 units. We have well-maintained and managed buildings, large part to Jody Warden, our office manager who's here today, does excellent work, and the rest of our team looking after the buildings. We have an excellent financial track record, never been in financial difficulty, never missed a mortgage payment or a tax payment. And most importantly, we have an experienced and capable board of directors. The treasurer of this corporation has been the treasurer since 1977, and he's still with us today. We have modest apartments, both in size and finish. 45% of our units are rent-geared income, other than the ones in Wall Street Village. We subsidize those. We spend about $250,000 of our own cash flow to subsidize the RGI in our buildings. People know for seniors on CPP and OAS, the RGI rent is approximately $475. And as already been mentioned today, our market rents are anywhere from $100 to $200 less than true market. For example, a 2-bedroom ground floor apartment at Wall Street Village, which is only a 4-year-old building, rents for $1,100. And right now, utilities are included in rents at our first 2 buildings that were built under CMHC housing programs. And here is the first building, built back when actually I was working for CMHC back in 1980. It came with a 35-year mortgage and operating agreement. That's all expired and paid off, and I'll reference that in a second. And we subsidized 45 units of RGI in that building. And I may add, when those mortgages were put on by CMHC, they came with mortgage insurance with no fees and no premiums. A point I would like to make, because when we did refinance them, as well as when we built Wall Street Village, we had to pay hefty premiums and fees to CMHC for the mortgage insurance. The second building, Mariana, just up from the Metro grocery store in Brockville. Similarly, it has 25 units of RGI, and also its 35-year mortgage has been paid out. And this was our third building, Wall Street Village. It's built just north of Wall Street Village Church and was done in conjunction with the nonprofit from Wall Street Village, with Wall Street United Church, who had gathered the land together, and they had the land, but they didn't have experience or equity, and we had that, so we joined forces and built this building. It was completed in May 2019. United Counties and Leeds and Grenville puts in 30 units of rent supplement. It's an attractive building, fits the neighborhood. Most of the political folks who were lined up here this morning came to the grand opening in May of 2019. How do you finance a building like that in these days? It's a lot of picking from here and picking from there. This is how we financed Wall Street Village. The first two amounts was remortgaging our existing two properties. And we pulled the equity of those and poured them into the project. We also were able to score a just shy of $2 million investment in affordable housing grant. Thank you to our good friends at United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. They also provided us with a short-term line of credit, $530,000, which was to be paid off within 18 months. And Infrastructure Ontario, I hear they're going to be presenting later. They provided $7 million in construction financing and an eventual first mortgage and takeout financing. And we ourselves provided $1.5 million in equity. And that created a building, $14,150,000, long before the pandemic and inflation hit. While that was going on, we first presented to the Sisters of Providence, a group out of Kingston who owned the St. Vincent de Paul Hospital in Brockville. And we knew it was going to be redundant in 2020, late 2020, because of the hospital expansion in Brockville. So 3 years prior to that, we presented to them and said, hey, we have an idea for you. We're a nonprofit. We build affordable housing for seniors. We'd like the site. And they said, fine. We were their only purchaser. They agreed within a week, and the site was transferred to us from the Sisters in November of 2020. We did look at possibly renovating the building, but it's really hard to renovate a 50, 60-year-old hospital into affordable housing. So from March 2021 to September 2021, we did asbestos abatement. Cost us $1.5 million to pull the asbestos out of an old hospital. And then we demolished the building and cleared the site. It was a huge entertainment for most of the residents of Brockville when we brought that down. After demolition, we commenced a new affordable seniors apartment building, 88 units. It's on a similar footprint to the hospital. Its style is consistent with Wall Street, and construction started in November, and we're 2021, and we're complete to be scheduled in early 2024. I should mention that both in this building and in Wall Street Village, when we fill a building like that, yes, it's seniors housing, but keep in mind, it creates a ripple effect throughout the community. My neighbor right across the way that I've known for years, love her to bits, she's moving in. She lives in a single-family home by herself, and she's going to be moving in. That house will go back on the market, and the ripple effect will go through the community and the area. I'd like to say as well, and I'm proud of it because we did this during one of the most difficult construction periods and difficult financing periods in recent Canadian history, that we're on schedule and we're on budget. I can't say enough about the contribution from the City of Brockville to this project. They aided us in development fees, permit fees, and even the park fee. It helped with all of those add-ons that make a project very expensive. Also, because of the environment, we had a heck of a time trying to secure financing during this period. I was a little frustrated with some of the comments that were made earlier this morning when they said, oh, you have to think outside the box. We can think outside the box. It seems to me a lot of the folks at the provincial and federal level need to be able to do the same thing. The only way we were able to get a loan for this is that the City of Brockville stepped up and guaranteed a $17 million loan to make this project work. And yeah, hats off to the City of Brockville. And they did that through faith in our corporation and what we were able to do with Wall Street Village and what we were proposing to do. I'm just saying there's something seriously wrong when a municipality has to be the ones up to build a nonprofit and affordable housing. So this is the graphic representation of what it's going to look like. And oh, I missed the graphic representation. There's the graphic representation when it's finished. And just, you might also notice, see that little white building in between? There's Wall Street Village in the back left. The new building, St. Vincent, is in the right. And that little white thing on the top. The site that we're building on is actually zoned for a second building, 10 stories, 96 units. That's not what we plan to build, something a little smaller, but we do have plans for a set phase 2 after this. That's where the project is now. If anybody's driven by, you'll see that it's well under development, and like I say, slated for early 2024. This is how this building was put together, and it too was a creative financing effort. You can see what the total cost up there. It's not an insignificant project, $23.3 million. We put in $1.9 million of our own equity. We again secured another grant for $2 million from the province and feds under the COCHI program. We secured an interim loan from the United Counties and Leeds and Grenville for $4 million. And I said the City of Brockville is guaranteeing a loan that's being put up by Infrastructure Ontario for $15.4 million. It's actually got an upside limit of 17, but we're only going to need the 15.4. And so the last point I'd like to make here is that we have, and it came up in the earlier presentations, we have close to 500 applicants on our own waiting list. We maintain a separate waiting list from United Counties and Leeds and Grenville. We ourselves have 500 applicants on our waiting list. So we could probably build several of these buildings and fill them. And when we recently re-rented 2-bedroom apartments at Wall Street Village, they were filled by people who have been on our application waiting list from 2016 and 2018. So people are out there waiting a long time to get into affordable, decent housing. Our vacancy rate remains at 1/3 of 1%, which is always fun when you mention that to a lender when you're looking for financing. He said, no, you got to use 5%. I said, we've never had higher than 1% vacancy rate, never higher than 1/2 of 1%. So, and as I mentioned, St. Vincent has a zoning for a second site. Yesterday we approved a preliminary design, another 81-unit building for the same site. So I'm looking forward to talk to my CMHC and Infrastructure Ontario colleagues at lunch. Thank you very much. Get all my papers out of here.
So next I'd like to invite Andy Broderick to the stage to give a presentation. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Andy over the last course of the better part of a year as he is working on a project here in North Grenville, which we're really excited about, and you'll learn more about in his presentation. Andy is a managing partner at New Market Funds, a fund management company with offices in Vancouver and Toronto, raising and deploying capital that meets community needs and provides risk-adjusted market returns. He also leads New Commons Development, an affiliated nonprofit development company. From 2010 to 2018, Andy worked at Van City in various roles, including head of community investment and the executive lead on the launch of the Van City Community Investment Bank in Toronto. Before Van City, Andy worked as head of development, then as president and CEO of Housing Vermont, recently rebranded as Evernorth. There, he and colleagues founded Green Mountain Housing Equity Funds, raising over $150 million for affordable housing and Vermont Rural Ventures, a community development financial institution investing in lower income areas of Vermont. He started his working career in housing and community investment in 1991 as the executive director and sole employee of the Rockingham Area Community Land Trust in Bellow Falls, Vermont. Before that, he was a teacher, butcher's assistant, hut boy, and dishwasher at the CIA. Welcome, Andy.
It's a little more than you needed, probably. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. I think we're the out of the box. We're sort of, I think, a new strategy on how to bring sort of private capital, government resources, nonprofit expertise, and experience together to try and find new ways to deliver affordable housing. It feels like the problem is so large in so many places that it's going to take sort of everybody pulling together. And really that's the context under which Newmarket Funds was founded back in 2012, actually, as a bit of a project. But right now, I don't know if any of you were listening to CBC this morning, but one of the other partners was on talking about our preservation fund. Derek Ballantyne was on this morning on the radio. As I drove up to Kemptville, I was listening to it. So we're covering the country at the moment. If I get the next slide, please. Oops. As you can see, I'm very good at presentations. Sorry. We're essentially a fund management company. We are a for-profit fund management company. We happen to be owned by, 51% owned by a society that was set up by a number of foundations across Canada who are interested in trying to invest their legacies, their fund balances into their communities in new ways. In other words, they didn't think just granting money was enough. They wanted to sort of take their core investments and try and figure out how to use them both to raise money to give out later, but also to change the communities they're in. So that was our start. We have about $85 million under management right now. We combine what we call community development, social finance. There's lots of terms for it. Alternative investment and capital market experience, and then we have offices in Vancouver and Toronto. How we think about our business, we really try and come up with products that will allow aligned investors. It's a jargon, but I mean, it's people who want to see their money have a double bottom line, want to see their money both get a return, which we try and give a risk-adjusted return, so we try and sort of frame it in that context. This is not some of what we do is charitable, but some of what we do is really aimed at raising capital that will get that kind of return. We develop impact investment opportunities for those people looking for those. We've been focused almost entirely around affordable housing. We've had 2 funds we've launched, which I'll speak about. As I said, we're owned by a charity, and the balance of the company is owned by the team. It's in a partnership that's owned by anybody who's been there 2 years or longer. We're a certified B Corporation, and we've been selected, and again, forgive the jargon, but we're never going to learn about it unless people start talking about it, as part of the Impact Assets 50 fund managers. So as you're looking for investment opportunities, start asking whether your manager is part of the Impact Assets 50 fund managers. So these are groups that sort of best practices in impact investing. Next slide, please. Thanks. I think we've become at least. I'm not good at sort of touting our own horn, but we've got a lot of experience in affordable housing across the country now. We've been very active in British Columbia, in Ontario, in Nova Scotia, and in Quebec. We have about 2,500 units in various, including 109 in Kemptville, in various stages of construction, permitting, or financing and feasibility. We do it generally through New Commons Development, which is a nonprofit structure we work with, and New Commons Development is totally staffed by Newmarket Funds. So I work for Newmarket Funds, but I spend most of my time on New Commons Development. There's about 1,100 units that we have got in our investment funds. These are the funds we raised from from private capital. This is to help nonprofits buy real estate. It's either to buy existing multifamily housing that's privately owned and that's sort of threatened with rent increases and would like, if purchased now, could be taken off the speculative market and but permanently on into a community's stock of affordable housing. And then secondly, we also have 850 units we've invested in through our lending products, which I'll talk about in a second. Simple organization, we are not a simple organization. Next slide, please. And this is the very simple version of it. But Newmarket Funds, as you can see beneath it, we have New Commons Development, we have the funds I've spoken about, and we have 2 lending groups. Community Forward Fund, which lends solely to nonprofits and charities, and the CCIF, which is the Canadian Cooperative Investment Funds, which will lend to cooperatives, including housing cooperatives. so our sort of three areas of business are lending, investing, and development. Thank you. Next slide. The context under which we think about affordable housing, which is very similar to has been spoken of today, is we think any conversation has to be around income. I mean, what's happened in the last 40 years, really in Canada and in other in other places, is we talk about average market rent, we talk about market rents, we talk about this, we talk about that. We don't talk about what people can afford to pay and how it relates to their income. There's been a total disconnection between local incomes and local rents. And so even in the way we're trying to track our affordability that we report to our investors, that we report to our stakeholders, and it's tied to median income. So we calculate the median income for the area we're working in through StatsCan, and we adjust it by household size, and we come up with our housing's affordable to households at 80% of the median income or 50% of the median income to sort of identify that. So we've got this major impact of this disconnection that's been taking place over the last 30 years. I'm not going to drag you into the details. You guys know it. You're living it. Next slide, please. So as I started, where I think we offer the most value is we've existed in that world between private capital. Derek Ballantyne, I think, helped start CCOC at one point, at the beginning. Garth Davis, the other partner, is a private equity guy out of Toronto who decided, it was St. Peter got knocked from the horse. He decided he needed to do something more meaningful in his life and moved back out to Vancouver and has taken up his skills to try and serve the good side. So what we bring is this combination of expertise in private capital management, a long relationship with working with governments and government bureaucracies and helping, as CADCO does too, helping them understand what would be more effective and what are better ways to leverage more private capital or more partners to the table. And then finally, nonprofit capacity and community capacity. Strong groups where they deliver, the kind of value we just heard about, and you guys have seen and experienced in town, where people who sort of know the community and know what is needed can translate that and say, we sit down with CMHC or Infrastructure Ontario and make it clear what can be done. So that's the area we really want to work in. I'm just going to go quickly through a couple of other things, and then I'll sit down and take questions. Next slide, please. So Fund 2, if anybody's looking for an investment, it's got to be, you got to be a certified, you have to, be an institution or we're not. It's not a public offering, but we'll raise about $50 million. We're hoping to close in December. It will acquire over 2,000 units of housing. Right now, we're already at 850 units we've acquired, with 3 nonprofits those have all been in Quebec. We've got another 1,100 units under contract from Victoria, Pictou, Nova Scotia, and here not here, but in Ontario, in Toronto. So that's moving well. We think, again, we're hoping we'll meet our $50 million. We're right now at about 45. Next slide. This was the first property, third property acquired into the fund. It was in Drummondville, Quebec. It was with a group called Leeds, which is a very strong nonprofit out of Montreal, South Shore. And again, they're very entrepreneurial. They're looking for ways to expand their portfolio of housing, and we were able to come forward with those sources of financing and structure it. So we're in for about $4.1 million of the $45 million. And we were able to bring in patient capital from other investors of $6.4 million, which helped sort of get the project together and make sure the rents didn't have to change. Next slide. So New Commons development, again, it is what as we started with the funds. We realized that there weren't a lot of groups like CADCO out there, that frequently communities are, they have, my colleague who spoke before, but so we set up a nonprofit development company to provide capacity to work in partnership with a local community group if they didn't have the expertise or the confidence or the working capital to move a project forward. So that's New Commons' role. So it's there to work in partnership with other nonprofits and help us create pipeline for investment too. Quick next slide change. I want to see what this one looks like. Not bad. That's you can't see much, but that's the Kemptville. That's on Reuben Crescent. It's just in for permitting now. It's 109 units in 2 buildings. They'll be wood framed, 4 and 6 story. With luck. Hopefully construction in the spring. We're working on the financing, and I'm confident we'll find a way, but it's not easy moments in terms of this kind of financing. All right, you can skip the next slide, the next 2 slides actually. Just keep moving. These are the development. And finally, so I just quickly mentioned we have the 2 loan funds. Graham spoke about a toolbox. I mean, think of new market funds and some of our resources as tools that may or may not work in a specific situation. Community Forward Fund is the kind of group that would do a bridge loan, like you heard about, that was necessary for $800,000, it lends to nonprofits and societies that have a good track record, that have a gap, that needs filling, and we'll step in, and it's around a 5.5% to 6% interest rate, so it's pretty competitive. And it was created by community foundations that wanted to see their money go into their local communities. And then finally, we have the Canadian Cooperative Investment Fund, which will also take equity pieces in properties, not just loans, but they'll take longer-term equity. It's about a $21 million fund. I think we have about 12 million of it out. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Sandra Summers to the stage. Many of you in this room may know Sandra. She has been employed with Community Living North Grenville for 22 years, and with a management and administration background, has served as executive director for 9 years, as well as shared executive director with Brockville and Area Community Living Association. Sandra has taken a lead role with her organization in the development of affordable housing in the municipality of North Grenville. Welcome, Sandra.
Good day, everybody. Nice to be here. I want to first extend a great thank you to, just to Caroline and Amy for providing this opportunity for all of us to come together, because housing is so important. I would also like to thank you for inviting us to just present on our local project that we are so very proud of. So 224 Jack Street has been up and running now since 2020. So we'll just continue with our first slide. So who is Community Living North Grenville? Oh, just give me a minute to breathe. Who is Community Living North Grenville? So we are a nonprofit corporation supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. A lot of facts are on the slide, but we're primarily funded by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, and we're funded with about a $6 million budget. As noted, we also provide we also as a shared executive director with Brockville and Area Community Living Association. It's very daunting. I'm sorry, just give me a minute to take a breath. Yeah, I'm just collect my thoughts. So yes, we took a lead role, and why we chose to do this is because I said we provide support to people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And trying to find them housing, as you know, is very complicated, and there's just not available housing out there. So as a service provider, we represent 12 homes in Kemptville, and with our shared leadership program with Brockville and Area Community Living Association, we have another 11 homes in Brockville. So together, collectively, we have 23 traditional group homes across the Leeds and Grenville County. As I mentioned, we're primarily funded by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, and many of those homes are owned by the ministry. But as you know, with lack of funding, they are not agreeing to provide capital dollars anymore to buy group homes. And with that, it is another burden on the Ministry of Housing and our municipal housing providers to build housing for the people that we support too as general population. So we took a lead role, again, as another strategy as well with our ministry and the new funding and foundational framework for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities around Journey to Belonging. So mark those words if you want to Google that, that's wonderful, but it is a new framework to say that we will not build any more group homes, traditional group homes in that matter. When we consider our population that deserve rights and choices and a place that they can call themselves home is very, very beneficial to them. No one, we will not open more group homes. We will close group homes. And no one grows up and is supported in the community and says, hey, I want to live in a group home. With rights and choices and the social determinants of health around someone having their own home, that's why we took a lead role in that. So, and it came about, so I'm just going to, as a small not-for-profit organization, well, I guess we're not so small anymore, but we represent about a $12 million budget. And like I said, 200 employees between both organizations in Kemptville and Brockville. So we are fairly large. But because we have people that do live independently in the community as well, we have a great historical relationship with the United Counties around a lot of their rent supplement programs, their affordable housing subsidies, and so on. So in determining to try to take a lead role about what we were going to do to find homes for people in the market that is much different now, we began back in 2017, 2018, and trying to establish what opportunities might look like. It was our partnership with United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and it just started as a conversation. And then we began to take a broader look at what was available. So, sorry, I'm delinquent in my forwarding abilities. So we started to look for opportunities, and we did meet with a couple of builders locally around Kemptville, but in meeting with Corey Lockwood of Lockwood Brothers, we partnered with Lockwood Brothers to build our units on Jack Street. And it just happened to be, again, another conversation and another opportunity because he had the available property. So it just seemed to be a natural match. We took advantage of the affordable housing investment in affordable housing initiative that was available through United Counties. And through that relationship, it just seemed to come together because they had a number of different pots of money that they could culminate together to provide us $1.5 million in funding. We had an agency ourselves and my board that was prepared to move forward, and we had a builder. So all the stars lined up that we were ready to go. So the IAH funding, for just small detail, is 75% of the cost of building. So obviously the boards had to agree to generate the other funding for the other 25% of the cost. And it was a forgivable loan for 20 years. I'll speak about that shortly. We began the process in 2018 with an application submitted to County Council, and it was unanimously approved in July of 2018. So if anybody knows Corey Lockwood and Lockwood Construction, they are a great community developer. They like to build community, but they also like to build very high-end homes, and they're very quality builder. So when you deal with Corey, trying to bring his idea and vision down to something that is affordable was challenging, but they are a great builder. They are great to partner with. And I'm going to kind of walk through a little bit of our lived experience about what we went through. And I don't want to go into great detail, but there are some points on the slides. But obviously, we were very pleased to partner with Corey. But our board also said that affordable housing doesn't mean it can be nice too. It doesn't mean it needs to be lower on the scale of equality. So we built through design on Jack Street, the property that he had that we purchased from him as part of the project, had already had a duplex, a two-story up and down duplex, and it is in the downtown core of Kemptville. And we built 3 additional units, townhome units, 3 separate pods with 3 units in each pod, so nine all told. But with the duplex, we have 11 units there now. Slab-on-grade construction, radiant floor heating, all accessible with 3 units of wheelchair accessibility, so lower counters, walk-in showers, and so on. With any project, as I said, I spoke about the lived experience. These are some real in-the-weeds difficulties and challenges and successes that we lived through. I think with any project that you're embarking on, you need to be aware of that, because as an agency that supports people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, there is still quite a stigma out there. So when we have to go through the zoning amendment process, or when you get involved in public meetings, you always have to kind of plan for what the outcome might be of those things. So we definitely had some challenges. Corey and I were instrumental in anticipation of the development that was coming. We walked the streets around the neighboring blocks and provided information packages to all of the neighboring residents for an opportunity to share our story and ask questions and so on. So in the end, we through some challenges, we were awarded the site plan control. It was finally approved just in the fall of 2019. We began building right away, and then we were building over the winter, unfortunately, just because of some of the delays we experienced. But we did finish in 2020. We were still building when the pandemic hit, and luckily it wasn't stalled because it was already started under construction. So in the end, like I said, it opened in 2020 with final occupancies. In September of what was unique about this project was we also had my time's up, sorry. We also had a change in council, and just as we embarked on the process, and then with the change in council, and very supportive in that role, and some changes within the municipality of North Grenville around the leadership. So I'll just, if I can speak quickly to probably the most important piece in the end is some of our challenges. So we all know that not in my backyard, as I mentioned, the public meetings is very difficult, and neighboring complaints and comments. But the additional requirements added roughly $100,000 to our original quote. So, you know, that's not something that we had anticipated. You know, that's something that we need I advise you to look at. The other thing is, you know, I know that there's so many counties here and municipalities here that we know, and as a builder, as a nonprofit, the red tape and the bureaucracy that, you know, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but, you know, I think we can all agree when we partner together that if there's affordable housing that is such a need for affordable housing, then it has to be a whole lot easier to be able to build those kinds of things. We also, I know you spoke to the financial challenges, but we did have, because I mentioned the 75% of the funding that we were awarded, the other 25% was a board liability for us, and we had to be willing to take that on. And because we didn't have the opportunity, it was intentional to partner a little bit with, or try to partner with CMHC at the time, because of the pandemic, it kind of threw everything out of whack. So the board did take on a traditional mortgage through a financial institution that I had words with along the whole process. But in the end, at the last minute, the financial lender that I had lined up pulled out. So we had to quickly find another financial supporter. So again, so just to wrap it up quickly, we obviously maintain those 11 units now on Jack Street separately from all of our residential services and other group homes. But we also bear all of the responsibilities now around tenants and landlords and the Landlord-Tenant Act and so on, the lease agreements and so on. So all that to say, sorry about the confusion in the beginning. I apologize for that. But I'm available to available for any questions. So there's a couple of pictures, but would we do it again? Absolutely, yes, we would.
Well, we have some time for questions for our panelists, and thank you again for your presentations and the insights into the projects that you've worked on.
Thank you. Mayor Smith-Gatke from Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands, but I'm going to put a different hat on. I'm also a mortgage broker, so I deal with financing every day. So one of the things, this is more of a comment, and I'm sorry that our federal member is not here to listen, but I know that it'll get back to him. So it's very disappointing with Margarita residents being the track record that they had, the difficulty that they had to secure financing, and we know that as part of the counties. We helped as much as we could because we have our own 192 bed that is being built, which is an $86 million project. So from a debt perspective, we all are carrying it, and very much kudos to the city of Brockville for stepping up to help very much Margarita residents to make sure that it got built. But I guess my comment is in regards to CMHC, and I know we're going to hear from an individual here later today. CMHC to date, as of 2023, just this year, has paid dividends of $790 million to the federal government. There is room in the Bank Act. There is room for CMHC and the federal government to pressure lenders to fund this type of program. And we, as municipal representatives, as well as locals, need to put pressure on the federal government to make sure that they're earmarking a certain amount of money for this type of development, because with an organization with the track record that you had, it should never have been that difficult. And even your last, you said, you thought you had financing, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling. Organizations that have these sort of track records, that are building these very desperately needed pieces of property that are set up specifically for the need, they need to be supported. And we can only do so much at the municipal level, but at the federal level, and the province doesn't have jurisdiction over banks, but the feds certainly do. And I would highly suggest that we all pressure our member to get that message to the Governor of the Bank of Canada, as well as CMHC, to make sure that these projects do get funded and on time.
My response to that is amen.
Perfect. Chelsea?
I think this question is maybe best geared towards Graham. You said your company consults on non-affordable housing projects for a multitude of different companies. We are in the private sector, a smaller builder developer that now has the responsibility and expectation to contribute to the affordable housing crisis. As you're likely aware, that's very difficult on the private side, sometimes maybe impossible. We're expected to do it through decreased sale prices, decreased rent, things like that. I was just curious if any of your clients are you're working with, or if you had any ideas for how to contribute to the affordable housing projects for companies or individuals that don't have access to public funding, grants, donations, etc. Is there anybody you're working with that doesn't have that, or is it all nonprofit and publicly funded projects?
Good question. So I think there's definitely a role to play for private market developers to develop affordable housing, and they can access a lot of these programs. Most of the CMHC programs, a lot of them are available to, regardless of your corporate status. I'd say it's not as common because nonprofits are created for that express purpose, and there is certain tax benefits, HST and others, that help the nonprofits and charities that private market developers don't necessarily get, except for the recent announcements. But often where private developers do develop affordable housing is usually in partnership with a nonprofit or a charity. That might be a joint venture. It might be where private developers developing a building and a certain amount of units might be set aside in partnership with a nonprofit. So that's usually where I see the private developers participating, and with inclusionary zoning, that's becoming more common. Where we see it quite a bit, I'm sure Andy's done other projects like this, is where faith groups are looking to redevelop sites. Often faith groups are looking to develop their underutilized land, and what they're looking for is a combination of financial return and missional or affordable housing, and so that's usually where you might see an opportunity where a market developer might partner with a nonprofit. We have a couple different projects in Ottawa that are of that type right now, where the client, so to speak, was a private developer.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Right. So thank you to our presenters this morning. Thank you for the information that you shared, and I'm sure you've inspired a lot of thought and ideas amongst the group. Before we break for lunch, I just wanted to extend a few quick thank yous to those who helped make today possible. I want to recognize Baldwin Audio Visual Solutions at the back. We have Mark and Landon who've been helping us today with our audio and visuals, so thank you. We have Catered Affairs who are putting together a very delicious lunch out in the foyer, which I've been told is on time and will be ready when we get out there. It is a buffet style, so please help yourselves. Graham's Bakery and B&H Grocery Store helped with our food this morning. And I just want to again thank our dignitaries who attended this morning and our speakers for their time today who helped make our event a success. And without you, I don't think we would have drawn the crowd that we did today. I also want to thank members of our staff for helping out, including Tammy, Maison, Aaron, and Jessica from the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, my superstar planning team of Debbie and Phil for putting up with me for these last few months and being a little distracted, as well as the entire planning and development team here in North Grenville, Keena Boyce for her expertise and political acumen, as well as to Chris Morrison, and especially to Karen Dunlop, who puts up with all my shenanigans, for always encouraging us and supporting us through the planning of this event. So I do encourage you to network, make new friends, make new connections over the lunch hour, and we'll resume at 1 p.m. Thank you.